Space travel is prevalent in future. A ship is flying over a new galaxy. The crew is all asleep in suspended animation except Riddick, who attempts to gain some knowledge of the rest of the passengers by smelling them. The ship suddenly receives hits by debris of a meteor storm that punctures the hull. The computer gives the alarm, and the main crew is awakened, but the debris pierces the pod of the captain and kills him. Pilot Carolyn and navigator Greg leave their pods and make a run to the control panel. They discover the ship has been run into the atmosphere of a planet, and the gravity is dragging it at an extremely rapid pace. Greg attempts to attract attention, but the antenna is broken off. Carolyn hurries to the pilot chair and drops several sections of the ship and then rolls the ship. The spaceship decelerates slightly but not sufficiently, and hence she is forced to jettison the passenger pods. Greg closes the airlocks when he discovers what she wants to do. Carolyn takes the best she can to stabilize the ship as it begins to disintegrate, and a fragment of metal collapses into the front window. The ship eventually crashes on the planet and slides over a few miles, losing additional parts. The process sees police officer William leave his pod, and he must struggle to retain his grip so as to avoid falling through the collapsing walls. As the ship finally arrives at a point of stop, the crew comes out of their pods only to discover few survivors. William realizes that he lost his gun, turns back to his pod to grab it, and is attacked by Riddick. William strikes him with his baton at once till Riddick collapses and he hangs him on a metal beam. The remaining crew opens the closed pods with only some survivors, but mostly bodies. Carolyn attempts to find Greg, who is dead in the rubble, assailed with a metal bar. They do not have medicine since this section of the cabin is missing, and thus Carolyn throws everyone out of the room and remains with Greg as he dies. Then the crew explores the planet, and only to discover that they are in a desert. It has bizarre spires in the background, 3 suns, and the compass is faulty. The crew members owes their lives to Carolyn and calls her captain, which makes her feel guilty that she wanted to get rid of them. Then Carolyn notices Riddick, and William says that he is a dangerous criminal who managed to get out of a maximum prison and is not actually a human. The team inspects the luggage and notices that it contains alcohol, but not water. As all people are distracted, Riddick notices that the metal beam is broken on the top, and he turns his shoulders until he is able to push his hands with handcuffs through the opening and liberate himself. When the crew realizes that Riddick is gone, they get themselves armed and ready to find him and water. They divided, and some of them remained on the ship, with a few survivors as the rest took out. They notice a few trees, but going further, they are disappointed to find that they are huge bones. The crew scans around and does not notice Riddick hiding in the bones. When Carolyn is sleeping, she informs William that she almost abandoned all the passengers. In the process of the distraction, Riddick takes a strand of her hair and cuts it with a knife secretly. When the 3 sons of Abu discover a toy robot buried in the sand, the group gets to an old human settlement where there are pots and jugs, meaning that there was water here. Carolyn discovers a model of the solar system of this planet and gets to know that due to the positions of the 3 suns, nights are never experienced at the place. She also comes across an aircraft, but it is powerless and the wings are broken. During the shipwreck, Paris informs Shaza and Jack that he heard his aunt making a weird noise. Jack peeps through a hole in the wall and notices a man walking around the ship, hence they assume that it is Riddick. The 3 prepare to attack, and as the man approaches them, they see that it is another survivor. The man is then suddenly shot at the back by the boyfriend of Shaza, Zeke, who also believed it to be Riddick. In the meantime, the actual Riddick is having some relaxation with a drink close by. Then Zeke goes on to dig a grave and begins to haul all the crew bodies. He finds a gap in the wall of the grave and peeps in, only to be pulled in and assaulted by some unknown power. Zeke attempts to shoot to protect himself, and Shaza arrives when she hears of the gunshots, but it is too late. All that remains is the blood of Zeke. Looking up, Shaza sees Riddick and thinks that he has done it. Riddick dashes away, but William also catches the shots and comes to rescue him. During fight, William removes the goggles of Riddick, and the glare of the sun damages his eyes, and thus the process of William and Shaza to reclaim him becomes easier. Soon afterward, Riddick is once more chained in the wreck. Carolyn wonders where Zeke had been found, but Riddick simply replies that it was not a body to be afraid of. When he suddenly stands up, he startles Carolyn, revealing his odd eyes that enable him to see in the dark and painful when exposed to the sun. Then he says that he killed people before, but he did not kill Zeke, and thus they should check the hole again. William believes that Riddick is lying, but Carolyn chooses to go into the hole with a rope tied around her body just in case. She crawls extensively and finally comes to a tiny cavern and discovers numerous holes in the ceiling that end up being spires. She also hears the sound sounds of something going in the dark and turns round to find the foot of Zeke. Then her flashlight is struck down by her creatures known as bioraptors, who also desire to consume her. A frightened Carolyn begins the process of climbing up the spire, but the rope prevents her going too far, and she begins to slide back in the cavern. Carolyn screams, and the crew runs towards the sound to the right spire, smashes it, and rescues her. She sees herself safe a moment, and then the creatures pull the rope and drag her into the hole again. William and Abu hurry on to cut the rope and save her once more. Then William visits Riddick and tells him what has occurred to him prior to shooting the chains off and returning him his goggles. Riddick takes the gun of William at once, only to get rid of him, and accepts to help. Then the crew collects all their possessions and a power cell of the wrecked ship and drives back to the settlement. Although the crew uses a moisture machine to provide them with a little water, Carolyn tries to get used to the old electrical connections of the ship to be able to connect to the new power cell. With a quick glance at the systems of the ship, one can assert that it will require 4 additional power cells in order to launch. The crew is provided with a variety of tools by looking around the settlement. Jack has his head shaved and wears a pair of goggles as a way of emulating Riddick as his idol. Riddick discovers a coring room which is strangely locked in on the inside. After the group pauses, they speculate about the location of the previous inhabitants, being geologists, and why they chose to leave. Yet Riddick believes that they all must have been slain by the bioraptors. In the meantime, the son of Abu Ali discovers a wall in the coring room that is broken and enters it. He lifts a hatch in the ceiling, and the sunshine exposes a pack of bioraptors which swiftly assault him. As Ali flees and seeks refuge in the closet, he screams, but the monsters catch up with him there. His screaming is heard by the crew, who shoots the door open to get into the coring room as well. Apparently, it is empty at first, but once Abu opens the other door, all the bioraptors fly and run away along the shaft inside the ground. Upon examination of the closet, Abu is horrified to see his son is dead. As the family bury Ali, the crew searches in the shaft with a flare and discovers a lot of skeletons. According to Riddick, the reason why the geologists went there was that the door was too thick to be broken by the bioraptors, but they broke through the cellar. Although Shaza apologizes to Riddick that he killed Zeke, William recognizes that all the animals on this planet are sunburned. Carolyn discovers a coring sample 22 years ago on an identical month as this one. She goes back to the planetary model and shifts the date to test the positions of the planets in the present day. It happens that there is an imminent eclipse that will leave the planet in total darkness over weeks, and this will mean that the creatures will be at liberty to come out. Carolyn appears concerned and informs them that they should complete the job of repairing the wing and retrieve the other power cells before the darkness falls. Privately, William cautions her that the last time Riddick got away by flying a ship and killing the pilot, they should not carry the power cells till the very end. Then, William goes to hurry off the ship to be able to throw up outside. Riddick can tell that he is shaking and assumes that he is experiencing withdrawal. Several minutes later, Riddick addresses Carolyn also privately. He shows that William is not a cop. He is a mercenary who has not yet killed Riddick due to the reason that he would collect the bounty. Riddick further informs her that William is an addict. Carolyn vents her anger to go and face William and steps on him when he injects his eye. When William tells Carolyn that he is not a cop, she finds his medicine trove that would have saved Greg, but William hides it as a hobby. She starts shouting at him, but William cuts her by presenting her with the scars he received after fighting with Riddick, that he is capable of taking care of himself. When the crew takes a stroll outside, they learn that the planets already move towards each other, thus the darkness will be soon. Shaza completes repairing a Sandcat automobile, and the crew gets on it to make a return trip to the shipwreck. When it begins to grow black, the crew hasten to load all the power cells on the vehicle as quickly as possible. Unluckily, they are not fast enough, and when the darkness finally sets in, they are not able to depart as their car is run by the sun. Just then, they hear the screeching and are witness to all the bioraptors flying out of the spires. All of them run away to get shelter. Yet, Shaza and Riddick lag behind and need to jump on the ground in order not to be hit by the bioraptors as they fall down. After they have left, Shaza attempts to join the crew, but she is immediately attacked by the bioraptors who surround her, tearing her body in half and flying away with the upper part. Riddick remains low, and even before he stands up, he ensures the creatures are really gone. Then the spires begin to break, and Riddick removes his goggles to allow his night vision to be able to see bigger bioraptors emerging. Subsequently, the crew meanders through the wreck ship as they continue to hear the monsters screech. The people believe that the bioraptors see in the dark with sound, similar to the bats. They are also aware of the movement in the walls. torches. Paris desires to run away. The other people prevent him. Abu opens a container and puts crew inside it, and before he locks it, one of the bioraptors rips a wall. Abu runs away just in time. Riddick locates a blowtorch and cuts a hole into the back wall, allowing the group into the cargo hold. As the others are covering the hole, Riddick turns around and spots an incisive little bioraptor in a corner. That is the time when the second son of Abu Hassan notices the creature. Riddick advises him to remain quiet so as not to be seen. Hassan panics and runs away when the creature is too near and is killed by another bioraptor. Additional monsters come into view, and thus Riddick flees to join the crew, who have their flashlights turned on and blind him by mistake. The light also drives the chasing bioraptor blind, and he runs away as William fires his gun. It is killed by a shot, and its carcass drops before the audience. They see that the light scalds the bioraptor. Then, the team discusses the course of action. Caroline wishes to walk to the settlement with the cells and protection of flashlights. William believes it is too risky and suggests that they wait to complete the eclipse, but Abu reminds him that it might take an eternity. According to Caroline, concealment did not suit the geologists. Riddick intervenes when William attempts to be violent, and it escalates into an argument. Once they get the blowtorch and as many flashlights as they could get hold of, the group goes out. Riddick in the lead, since he can see in the dark. One of the bioraptors bursts out of the ship, but fortunately it does not notice them and flies away. They get to the main cabin and construct a sled of metal fragments to transport the power cells and glow tubes. Riddick informs everyone to make sure their bodies are not cut because the bioraptors are attracted to the smell of the blood. The group finally takes off after being ready. They race in the dark, with Riddick leading and discovering the path when others drag the sled. Bioraptors remain in them but maintain their distance due to the lights. As the blowtorch goes dead, Paris takes a flashlight and throws it. To get it, Jack walks out of the light area and a monster attempts to strike him. In order to guard him with his lights, Abu jumps on him. The bioraptor flies over them and is frightened by a couple of shots. Paris continues to panic and crawl off, dragging the tubes in the process and crushing the battery that keeps the lights on. Paris halts after realizing he is bleeding, imbibes a little, spits it on a lighter, and this forms a huge flame, exposing the bioraptors surrounding. Once the fire's extinguished, the monsters start feeding Paris, and Riddick can easily see them. The team lights torches and flares and notices that they leave their footprints on the ground and fears to lose the way. Riddick justifies that he made an additional round because he had to think as there is a canyon ahead. He also mentions that Jack is bleeding and refers to him as a girl. According to Jack, she is a girl who would not want trouble with the crew, so she dressed like a boy. The bioraptors have been following her blood due to her Shark Week. Carolyn believes that they should not stay out, but rather go back. William becomes furious and offends her. Abu defends her. William tells everyone that Carolyn has nearly tossed them into the sea, and then Carolyn strikes him in order to stifle him, but William hits her down. William and Riddick continue to move, so the other ones have no choice but to follow them. On their way through the boneyard, William proposes that Riddick tosses Jack to the animals as bait. Riddick becomes enraged and begins to fight William instead, in the hope he will serve as a bait. In the process of the struggle, the gun is fired, and Carolyn instructs other people to conceal themselves. William breaks the arm of Riddick, who then punches him and puts his arm back. They continue to fight with knives and fall on the ground. Riddick wakes up soon and cuts William on the back when his flare explodes. When Riddick runs into the darkness, one of the bioraptors flies and makes William fall. Then it stabs him with its claw and begins feeding on him. Riddick is then involved in the running back crew of the ship that has been wrecked. He tells them that they should not be left behind, but they begin heading back to the settlement. Later, as Riddick crosses the boneyard, he examines a bioraptor skull and realizes that it has a hole in its ears. At some point, they arrive at the destination, and the party begins to run all over it with Riddick holding the cells. Soon, bioraptors fly over them, but they do not attack due to torches. The animals begin to fight one another, and their corpses are lying on the ground. The crew will have to avoid limbs and blood. There is a huge skeleton in the middle of the canyon, and the team halts to pass under it. One of the bodies of the monsters suddenly opens its eyes and takes the leg of the last son of Abu Suleiman, making him fall with his torch. Abu holds on to Suleiman. As the biotraptor is scared off by the torches, the boy is pulled back by him. Suleiman has a wound, and he requires wrapping up. Riddick continues moving forward as Jack requests him to hold on. Then another bioraptor flies and picks Jack. Carolyn attempts to burn it using her flashlight, and the bioraptor knocked the flashlight out of her hand. Riddick returns and manages to take the paws of the beast and evade its attack. Riddick draws his knife when he gets an opportunity and kills the raptor. The team is able to continue running, however. Suleiman is unable to run, and thus Abu assists him. It also begins to rain and extinguishes most of their torches. Jack and Carolyn attempt to save the final spark of fire as a bioraptor on the top of the canyon stretches crouches down eating Suleiman. Riddick discovers a cave in the wall of the canyon and hides with Carolyn, Jack, and Abu the final flame. He puts a rock in the doorway and strides to the settlement carrying the power cells. As soon as Riddick arrives in the settlement and begins the spaceship, the three in the cave hear the creatures, and their flame is taken away. The cave is also stocked with glowing slugs, and thus they make bottles so that they can use them in order to make new torches. By thinking that Riddick will abandon them, Carolyn goes out of the cave and stumbles into the shipyard where she catches Riddick before he takes off. Riddick does not agree to assist her and promises to elope with her. Carolyn becomes furious and throws him to the floor and informs him that she is the captain. Riddick easily overpowers her, puts a knife on her neck, and inquires whether she would die on Jack and Abu. Carolyn says yes. At the cave, Abu and Jack witness the rock in motion. They believe it is all over, yet Riddick and Carolyn still fight. In the absence of the power cells, the team goes more rapidly through the canyon, yet there are still some bioraptors on land. Riddick makes everybody hold hands and continue running since monsters run out of sight when they encounter torches. Carolyn, Abu, and Jack arrive at the settlement and run into the ship. Riddick falls behind after assisting them and falling on mud. Riddick comes face to face with a bioraptor who has been trailing him to the settlement. Riddick remains in the blind spot and is invisible by following its maneuvers. There is another bioraptor at the back which entraps him. Carolyn is interrupted when Abu proposes to leave. She listens to Riddick screaming and tracks him down to discover Riddick lying on the floor, a seriously injured man. He can hardly move, but Carolyn does not surrender and attempts to assist him. As they are leaving, a bioraptor stabs her behind the back and takes her away. Riddick shouts out with wailing and falls. Several minutes later, Riddick is in the ship with Abu and Jack. He starts all the engines and then switches them off. A flock of bioraptors comes up to the aircraft. Riddick only waits until they are close enough to start the engines again, and then burns or drives all the monsters at once. Jack questions Riddick on what they will tell the authorities in future when the ship enters the space. Riddick says that he was killed somewhere on the planet, which proves that he is a caring human once again. He recommends to subscribe and enable notifications to allow people to watch more videos. Thanks for watching.